Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Heart and Soul Alchemy session number 6. Today we have Hilary Wheeler. Thanks, Hilary, for joining us. And she will be talking to us about New Year 2025, no resolutions needed, which will be a really great topic. So, Hilary is a certified professional coach and energy leadership master practitioner trained through the Institute for Professional Excellence in Coaching, EPEC. Her coaching practice centers on pragmatic spirituality, a holistic approach to personal and professional development that integrates spiritual principles with practical strategies to help clients achieve balanced, meaningful, and tangible outcomes in their lives. Hilary is also the creator of the WNXT workshops, a series of interactive topic-specific group sessions designed to empower individuals, leaders, and teams and uncovering what's next in a certain area of life. Then create an action plan to get there. So, wow. Hey, Hilary, that sounds amazing. I look forward to hearing what you have to say.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. And thanks for the time to be here to get a chance to speak with you and everyone else. So I wanted to talk about New Year's resolutions. This is something that I think as a society, maybe it's just more in the US, I'm not so sure, but we tend to think, okay, I've had a lot of bad habits over the past year or my life, and I'm going to go into this new year and I'm going to change. I'm going to change the way I am, and that is going to make me happier, more successful, more fulfilled, more confident, all those things. So I don't know, Sarah, if you've made resolutions in your past, or if you're over that. But
I mean, I think it's hard to say over. I think everybody at this time of year, it's the message we get all over the place from everywhere. It's certainly in my consciousness. I would say in the past, it's been things like quitting drugs, quitting smoking, eating less, exercising more, all of that kind of thing. I would say this year, my resolution is to have no resolutions. So your topic is actually perfect. And I think this is a mindset that many of us can benefit from seeing.
and I love what you said. So I used to make resolutions all the time. And it would vary from the thing, losing weight, exercising more, having more fun because I'm overly responsible, whatever the case may be. And then I started deciding not to make resolutions because I found, like most people, I think, when I make them, they don't come true. Then I don't follow through on it. Sure, I'm hardcore for like the first, maybe couple of months. And as I've gotten older, it might be like the first 15 days. But it ends up just, I go back to whatever that behavior was.
It's a burnout syndrome. Like we all end up in this burnout syndrome because we're pushing ourselves to be completely different, right?
Right, exactly. And you're starting from this ramp up place of like going from 0 to 60. On December 31st, you're not exercising at all. And by January 1st, when, you might be hungover or whatever else, you're like, and now I'm going to start exercising. So it's just not the best framework for change. And so my thinking for 2025 is to offer a different perspective for folks going into the new year. And rather than looking for a new you in the new year, to stick with the now you, who you are in this moment. So to that end, there's a couple of things, and I don't want to, ramble too much, so stop me, but our lives are made up of just a series of perspectives, habits, and behaviors, and we accumulate those over time. So it may be, our core behaviors that have been instilled in us since we were young kids, and we have experiences that seem to then cement that belief even more. We have perspectives on various things that are formed by our families, by our friends, again, by our experiences. And then we have our habits, which are our, day to day. They could be positive, they could be less than positive. Just our day to day that, we do without rote. Brushing, your teeth, hopefully is a habit for most of us.
Hey, you never know. I've been there when it was not.
Yes, and I have a 19-year-old, and it was a little bit of a struggle getting it to be a habit, around 14 or 15. But it's those three things that kind of make up our experience of our life. And so if you think about wanting to change something, it's getting to the root of why you want to change that thing.
Mm.
So you talked in the past about whether it was quitting smoking or exercising or whatever. That's the action, but what is underneath that? What is the why? What is the driving force that is propelling you to want to make that change? And when I say you, I mean just the ubiquitous you, anybody. All right, so I'll stop there. Any questions?
So I was thinking about what you just said, and I think the reason that none of those resolutions stuck in the first place was because it was always about some sort of worry about external judgment and shame. Um, and then about therefore how I was judging myself around it and not being comfortable with whatever it was, not necessarily because I thought I was hurting myself, more just because I was being told it made me a bad person. So
So the behaviors you're talking about, those made you a quote unquote bad person.
absolutely, especially, you look at an addict, and that was actually what my talk was about. And it was specifically just this idea that around the new year in particular, I remember having a lot of extra shame around being addicted to something when everything is trying to make it all shiny and new, and, and holding yourself up to a particular ideal. And I think that this external ideal that we tend to hold on to, that we get through social media, entertainment, all of that, that is actually where the issue is, and why when I quit, it was not at the new year. It was randomly in the summer when it was just my heart shifted because it was the moment.
I love that. I love what you said about your heart shifting and the moment. And that's part of what the heart and soul alchemy is all about, as we've all come together to create those heart shifts.
Yes.
And, so when I talk about even what I do in the form of mindset coaching, it is ultimately the mind, because that's what's driving our everyday, but it is about that heart shift. And I love that you did this in the summer when the moment was right, and it was easier, right?
Oh,
Like you
yeah. It was
yourself.
sudden, immediate, and then no fallout from it, which was actually felt weird. But it was easy.
I
And I had
love-
never experienced that around anything I tried to do with the knee.
I'm sorry about the dogs barking. This is just real life here as we do this. I
All good.
wonder if dogs make New Year's resolutions to get more treats, more pets.
I think that is an everyday resolution
I
for a dog.
think you're right. I think you're right. So I think that from a perspective of that mindset shift or that heart shift, that we go into wanting to be forceful with ourselves, or wanting to kind of just control ourselves into this space where we can be good, we can be judged as worthy, we can be
Yes.
not shameful, whatever those things are. And a lot of times those are the basis for the New Year's resolutions. And so how successful do you think anybody would be if they're coming into something kind of beating themselves up and from a place of shame to be better in the eyes of someone else?
I mean, I've had students that have told me expressly that's how they think they improve.
Interesting.
For music students, by the way.
Yeah.
Um, so I agree with you. It is not a successful model.
No, it's not successful for anyone. And how freeing would it feel to be able to go into something, whether it's a new year, whether it's a meeting, whether it's a new relationship, and just feel at peace and to be yourself and free to be yourself. Like, what a gift. We spend so much time trying not to be ourselves in different
Yes.
situations. So, what about embracing the you that you already are, which is the whole point of um our summit here. So, um to that end, there are a couple of things that I can do with the folks that I work with that can be immediately transformational, just in terms of shifting perspective. So if you think about your core beliefs, your core behaviors that are underneath all of it, it's that shame, it's that I'm not worthy. We all have that. It's just part of how we are. And if you have those behaviors and on top of that, you've got your habits that are kind of built to maybe manage those behaviors, those more negative ones. So you, for example, someone might have an eating disorder because they don't feel worthy in their physical skin or body. So that habit is to help deal with that. It's where addictions come in. And I know you've talked about this.
Yes.
And then your perspective is, so we often think that our perspective, whatever it is in the moment, is the only one, the only perspective. So think about that. If you're in a situation and something is said, the way you're processing it in that moment, we don't stop to consider that there's other ways of looking at it, that there's other ways of processing it.
I think actually a great example of that would be text messaging. How many times have you heard people on text getting upset by something that somebody said, only to find out later that the tone of voice was not part of the equation and therefore they didn't understand it the way the person intended it to be received? And I think that's a perfect example of exactly what you said. That's a great point, Hilary.
That is a great, texting is such a great example. Social media is a great example. So we can never be in someone else's head, in someone else's frame of reference, in someone else's experience to know what they're thinking, feeling, or meaning. And if we take the perspective of assuming that what we're thinking and feeling is what the other person is, we're not doing that other person justice as a human being in terms of everything they bring to the table. We're not giving, the universe, spirit, God, whatever you call it, a chance to come in and also have a piece of that. We're controlling. We're trying to control it. And sure, that can feel safer, but it is actually way more freeing and in flow if you allow people to be who they are and not make those assumptions or judgments, which we all do.
I love that.
It's hard. So this is hard to do. And I liken it to, with perspective. So say, you're over here and you're talking to someone, you're having this experience, and literally another way to look at it is simply just to turn over here. It's simply not keeping your eyes focused on one thing, one situation, one activity, result, whatever, and just moving your eyes over. And there's a mental way to do that shift. And it starts with your mind and then it goes down to your heart, which is where that profound change happens.
Oh,
Would you like to give that a try?
sure. Let's try.
All right. So I want to say to everybody that we're going to do a little role playing here. These are not situations that are, actually happening in Sarah's life per se. So this is just role play. So I'm going to get started by saying that our thoughts create our feelings, which drive our behaviors. So no matter what we're thinking, that's going to create a feeling. So if you're thinking something that makes you feel not worthy, for example, I'm going to go into the new year and I'm going to lose weight because I want to look really great on social media, for example, that feeling is going to be one of what? Anxiety, pressure. It doesn't come with that natural, like, getting to be yourself, embracing who you are.
Mm.
And then when you're in that space, you have certain actions. So let's do it. Let's do it in practice. Are you ready?
Okay, let's try.
Okay. So one thing I always like to do is when we start something like this is to have you close your eyes, and I'm going to close my eyes too. And make sure your feet are on the ground. And just take a breath or two to get yourself dropped into the space where we are. And in that space, and you can open your eyes, and usually I do that for a little bit longer, but I know we're short on time. What is a thought or challenge that you're currently experiencing? Again, we're role playing.
So I would say how to interact on a personal and a business level and how you balance that on social media and what that looks like and what that means. Um, do you need to focus? Like, does you need a separate business page? And how often are you supposed to be posting? And what kind of posts you're supposed to do? And what is the best way to reach people? All of those questions.
Well, and I think that is so, like, everyone's experiencing that, right?
Yes.
So when you say all that to me, how do you do this in a business page and but posting? How does that make you feel as you're saying all that?
Lost,
Lost.
untethered, um, confused by all of the advice around it that you can find. Um, I have to say it just because it just popped in, which is wow, it's exactly what you were talking about. Because when you're asking those kinds of questions, you're not looking at your own answer for what that is. Whoa.
That is so thank you. We all seek that external validation when
Yeah.
what we need is the internal validation. And what we're all here for this summit to talk about is embracing the you that you are is about internal validation. It is not about the external. But that's a topic for another day. For today, so lost, confused, just that feeling of uncertainty. And so when you think of yourself in that lost, confused, uncertain place, where do you feel that in your body?
In my belly.
In your belly. Okay. And that's a place of power. If we think about the chakras and just the energy channels in our body, that is, around the solar plexus, and it's a place where a lot of people experience anxiety, or they experience that feeling of just confusion or just off kilter, missing your foundation. And again,
Yes.
that comes from that external validation seeking versus the internal.
Mm.
So in that space where you think about feeling it in your belly and those thoughts are in your head, and I'll just maybe even that lost, kind of almost anxious feeling of which way do I turn? What do I do next? What type of actions do you take when you're in that space?
Eating and drinking.
Eating and drinking. Okay. So
Comfort.
not comfort, not doing the social media piece maybe, or pushing it off, or
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's what I guess I just mean like falling to a different comfort mechanism and not, and then it makes you feel stuck, I think, around the thing that you're like, I'm having all these feelings. I don't know what to do with them. So I'll go and do this other thing, which is unrelated, just because I can't deal with all of this feeling around um, whatever it is I'm seeking. So the social media piece.
yeah, yeah. So exactly. So, yep, we have a tendency when we're in that type of space, that uncertain space where you don't feel like there's a floor underneath you, to reach for something that's comforting, to reach for something that gives us a moment of breathing that is almost this false security, but it's what we've created as our habits. It's part of our core behaviors if we've had that. And so it's a hard thing to switch gears from.
Yes.
So a lot of people in that space that you described as well, think about being lost or uncertain or where to turn, they might frenetically start doing stuff on social media. So their action may be not to seek comfort, but like to do. So I'm going to
Mhm.
post a lot, I'm going to read a lot, I'm going to, and it becomes this frantic energy that feels like momentum, but isn't. It's another coping mechanism.
Absolutely. It's that um searching. It's that searching, inquisitive. Oh my God, I got to find the right answer. I have to dig and dig and dig and dig and dig so I can get the right answer. I've experienced that too.
Yeah,
So I
exactly.
feel it.
Yes. And I'm going to write that down. So the right answer, because I'm going to come back to that in a minute. But so we're in this space. So you have this thinking, you're like, I've got to keep up with social media. I've got to do it. And I'm really not sure what to do. And then that feeling that from that thought is that anxiety and just feeling lost and uncertain. And in that action state, you might seek comfort, you might do frenetic activity. So are you willing to try something, a little game with me around this?
Sure.
All right.
Always. Let's do
Cool.
it.
Let's do it. So let's have you select a more empowering thought than I have to be up in social media and I don't know what to do around it. Let's select a thought around social media that is more empowering.
How about I get to share my heart with people?
I love that. I'm going to write that down. I get to share my heart with people. So let that sink in for a second. I get to share my heart with people. In that space, that new thought of I get to share my heart with people, how does that make you feel?
Calm and happy.
Calm and happy. I love that. And just for everybody who may be watching, do you see the energy change? Like it's from this to just, I mean, I could feel it, you know?
Yeah.
So calm and happy, I get to share my heart with people. And in that moment of getting to share your heart with people and in that space of calm and happy, what would an action be that you would take?
Might just make a video to post and try to articulate that energy, whatever it meant in that moment.
I love that.
That's
So
weird.
it puts you in that creation space
I love it.
in your heart.
I love it.
Well, thank you so much for sharing that. So that is an example of what can be called breakthrough laser coaching. And my coaching instructors, 8 years ago might now be, I probably didn't do that the perfect way. However, the intent is to experience what it's like to feel the current unhelpful perspective and try on something new. Anyone can do this. And it's
Mm.
just a matter of stopping yourself and thinking, okay, how am I feeling and what am I thinking and how is that making me feel and what is that making me do?
I love it. You're essentially pointing at the translation of the words that people are using. Like you're having them look at the language of how they are expressing something and then asking them to shift it and to find a way that feels comfortable and a new way of putting it on, I guess. And I love that. I think that's amazing. What a helpful, tip for people to start exploring because you can do that on your own as well. And that's amazing.
Yeah, and you absolutely can do it on your own. And you're right, language is so powerful. Words really matter. Words have meaning, and people assign different meaning to those words. So my saying to someone, well, why don't you replace I need to feel safe with I need to feel protected? They may be like, no, that's not the word I'm looking for, you know. Or I remember working with a coach a long time ago, and that frenetic movement that I'm talking about is something I very much embody and have been working on for my whole life. But she said, well, why don't you just slow down? And I said, I don't, what does that, what does slow down? What does that even mean? And she's like, okay, what if you stop rushing? I'm like, oh,
Mm,
I feel that. I get that. So that's just some things we can do for ourselves.
amazing.
Thank you for going through that.
Yeah, no, that was great. I was gonna say, so we're getting close to time. Is there any particular last thoughts, suggestions, or just general information you'd like to give everyone out there that's
Yeah, so
watching
I'm going
right
to go
now?
back to the right answer. So you
Ooh,
said, remember you said something about like wanting to find the right answer. So there's there's a lot of foundational life principles, and you can look at them spiritually, you can look at them more, practically. But one of my favorites is that life is a game and it's neither to be won or lost, just simply played. So if you came into your life every day looking at it as a game to play, that the rules are not defined, there is no right answer. Sure, there are societal norms and cultures and, all those things that we operate with, but what could you do? What could you create? How could you live if you're living from a heart space where life is this game that you're just interacting with? And it's just a beautiful concept to think about and even, use as a mantra, life is a game. So anyway, that's what I would say.
that's amazing. I love it all. Thank you so much. And I hope that everybody's enjoyed our sessions. This is our final one. And check all of the, leave comments, check the bottoms. Every one of these sessions has a freebie. So you will find that in the comment section. Thanks again, Hilary, for your time. This has been great.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye.